Hi, good morning. This is Fred from Out of Box Wealth. Hope you're having a blessed day and you and your family are doing well. And today I wanted to talk about living without parameters. And so powerful because our parameters really are our own personal limits. And most of the time, if not a majority of the time, parameters limit us from our own good. They limit us from our own expression of our own creativity, of our own abilities, and keep us from having a full expression of our own authentic self. So to understand a parameter, it's best to go back to our original mind. And our original mind was given to us at our original consciousness. When we had the first experience of consciousness, when we had the first experience of being alive in this vehicle that we call our body. And from that point forward, we became the observer. And we started to observe everything that was around us, and we started communicating with everything that is around us. But at that first moment, we came with a true identity of ourselves, and we also came with a true power and authority of being ourselves, of being who we are. And at that moment, being who we are and being ourselves was our absolute right, our absolute existence, and our absolute purpose in manifesting into this earth realm, this earth frequency, this earth experience. And so that first energy, that first consciousness, that first power, that first mentality, that first understanding is our authentic self. It's who we truly are. And then as the days started to pass and the years started to pass, the influences around us started to influence us into a being, a person that was not fully who we are. And of course, a lot of those things were good. A lot of those things were helpful. A lot of those things, kept us from harm. But also, the other side of the sword, the other side of the coin is a lot of those things are false. And a lot of those things are simply not true. And that's when the parameters start being built. And a parameter is a belief that we have come to an empirical place where we believe this is true and there's just no exceptions. And where does that cause limits to us? Well, if maybe we had a hope, or maybe we had a dream, or maybe we felt like we were a certain person at one point, and then something happened and made us feel like maybe that's not who we are, or maybe that's someone who we can't ever be based on our environment, based on what is around us. And there begins the idea of environment, the influence of environment and its effects on our own personality, on our own who we truly are. And environment is very, very powerful. And a good example, Bob Proctor likes the example that, if we were born in New Jersey, of course, we're going to learn English and we're going to have a New Jersey accent if that's where we spend our time and that's where we grow up. But if we are born in Japan, and then we're obviously going to learn Japanese, and we're going to have a Japanese accent. That's the way that we are going to develop in our life. So depending on where we are born, it has developed and created certain parameters for us personally. And in a realm of division, in an idea and a concept of division, and especially after the experience of so many different war machines and war mentalities that have swept over humanity over generations past, the division causes many parameters that simply keep us closed and keep us locked into an experience that really isn't true, that really isn't authentic, and it isn't who we truly are. And that can have a lot of different manifestations. It can have a lot of different type of influences, whether it be people who are afraid of other types of people because of the war mentality, or even people who may live in a city environment and they're afraid of certain people because they're, maybe they're viewed as violent people or dangerous, or all types of ideas, all these different types of ideas that create division create parameters. Or maybe when you were young, you may have liked music and thought, well, when I grow up, I'm going to be a musician because that's what I love. And but you had influences around, and people said, well, you can't make money that way, and most people fail. And you're just never going to be able to take care of yourself and provide for yourself and the family doing that. And it can happen through many, many different things and many different ideas. And so what happens is these ideas and these experiences create parameters that keep us locked into a certain pattern, that keep us locked into a certain mentality, and can keep us locked into a certain lifestyle that we can seem to get stuck in. And that's when the joy for life, life expectancy, love, joy, peace, the things that just give us the energy of happiness and well-being start to diminish, and they start to wane, and it can eventually, start to erode hope. And we can just become basically a shell of a being going through the motions, but not having any real expectancy for anything to be happy and loving in life. And it can be a downward spiral, and it can happen to anyone. But when we have an understanding, when we start with simple concepts like Gnothi Seutai, know yourself. And when we know ourselves and we begin to study ourselves, when we begin to examine ourselves, when we begin to get an understanding of ourselves, and we can become aware of some of these parameters, when we recognize them and we understand that they're not true, but they are effective because they're preventing us from having experiences that are for our own good. When we recognize these influences, we can change them. And it's simply the thought that changes. And a parameter or a belief is simply a thought that you keep on thinking. So all that you have to do to change that is to change the thought. And I first started to notice this in different types of religious teaching. Actually, my wife and I, we met in Bible college. We were totally committed, to that environment. We were totally committed to the ministry. It's what we gave our whole heart, mind, and soul to doing. And then we started to do our own studying. And I especially started to study the scriptures and to study that. And then I found out that, there's a version that is older. And I found an older version. I kept finding an older version, and then I found out, the Roman influence on the version of the scriptures and the things that they added that really had nothing to do with the original teachings of Yeshua and his true disciples. And when I found that out, I went further. I found the Aramaic version, and I kept going back further and further and further, and finding older versions. And every time I went back, I found something that was different because it was older. And I found that the closer we get to now, the more changes and the more outside influences was added to the original teachings. And for myself, I found that those additions simply again were parameters that limited us in our own God-given power and influence and inheritance as simply being born as a child of God, as being born as a child of Yahweh into this earth realm. And then I found out that a lot of the things that were being taught, simply weren't true. And they were simply, they could have been designs, to be able to hinder people and to prevent them, and to put people in more of a herd mentality instead of a powerful and limited being mentality. Certainly a herd is easier to control. But anyway, we're not judging anything as good, bad, or indifferent. The point is to recognize who we are right now and what is available to us right now. And when we recognize parameters, we can question them, and we can figure out, are they true? Are they authentic? Are they built on a truth? And then that puts us on the journey for truth. And when we're on the journey for truth, and we truly are committed to finding the truth, just like Yeshua is quoted saying, Know the truth, and the truth shall make you free. And when we are free, we are living without parameters, because we have a true inheritance of being. We have a true inheritance of spirit that is not limited to any type of human doctrine. There's a very powerful scripture that says that when you become mature in the Word, that you're no longer tossed about by every wind of doctrine or doctrine of men that is handed down. And so having an understanding of the difference between an influence that's given to us through the minds of men as opposed to an influence that is given to us from the mind of God, from the mind of our true loving parental source that created us and gave us all the power that is available, being made in that parental source's image, to have the full creative power. And then we begin to understand that the whole universe operates on predetermined laws, and that those laws always work. And when we work according to the law, we're able to manifest without limit the full potential of those laws. The law of vibration, the law of attraction, the law of creation, the law of gestation. The law of gestation is very, very important, because just like when we put a seed in the ground, it has its own predetermined time. And isn't it really cool that these are things that have already been established? We know that with every seed that I can imagine, we know that there's already a predetermined time that once we put that seed in the ground and all the conditions are met for that seed to grow, it's going to start growing in a predetermined time. And it's the same way with our thoughts. It's the same way with our emotions. It's the same way when we recognize our own personal energetic being and its connection through the laws of the universe to time and space and to the manifested world that we experience around us. When we have a true understanding of these laws, we realize that some paradigms may have helped us and protected us unto this point, but there are also some paradigms that have prevented us from experiencing our own highest good and our own authentic self. And when all of us experience our own highest good and our authentic self, we are already vibrating at the true frequency that we are created to vibrate at, experiencing the energies that we have already labeled as the highest human emotions: love, gratitude, peace, all of the highest expressions of our happiness and goodness. And that's what we have the authority, the God-given inheritance and right as being born into this earth realm to experience without limit. And anything that is telling you, or anything that is speaking to you now saying, yeah, but, or, oh, you can't be happy all the time, or you have to suffer for good, or you have to suffer first before you can have any anything good happen to you, or as soon as something's good, something bad is going to happen. Ask yourself whether that in your own heart feels true. Does that feel like you were really created to have that type of experience? Do you think that's really what you were born into? If you do, well, I don't know what to say. Love, peace, and blessing to you. But if you feel like you are born into something higher, you're born into something better, you're born into something more powerful, for a more powerful purpose, for you to not just spend your life just barely getting by, but that there is a force, there is a powerful, loving, parental influence that wants you to have the fullest of manifest potential that is available for any being in the whole entire universe. Then you are on the path to experience your own highest good. And that own highest good is a power that is going to flow to you and through you. It's going to flow through you and to you, to your neighbor. And when we have a momentum flowing like that through loving Mother Earth, we can all release the power to restore our Mother Earth, our house, our home, back to the original garden paradise that it was originally manifested as for the children of God, for the brothers and sisters of our parental Creator. And then we can truly experience our true inheritance, our true manifestation, and our true right as sons and daughters of the Most High. So love, peace, blessing, abundance to you and your family in all the highest experiences and forms in all ways. Namaste.